watching Master Trader Live. Simple market analysis and education to help you make money in the markets. Join us live each week on YouTube and see past episodes at Master Trader Live. And now your show hosts, Greg Capra and Dan Giddy.
Hey, happy Sunday. I was ready to say about Wednesday, as we normally have our events on Wednesday. And this is kind of spontaneous. I sent out the email last night as Dan and I were doing our weekend review, as we always do, to send our letters to subscribers. Dan suggested, hey, Greg, you know what? This marijuana sector is getting murdered. It's starting to bottom out, it appears. Maybe it is an end of day move that they play catch up and so on. He goes, why don't we do an event on Sunday? And I said, you know, that's a good idea. And so we decided to do it and send it out. And so we'll go over some foundational stuff. And then we'll look at the sector and some stocks. As I said, relative strength, relative weakness. I mean, they're pretty much all beaten down so terribly. Tilray is the one that gets most of the attention, going from single digits to 300. Dan and I thought maybe it was a short at 100. We didn't do it based on, you know, it just didn't hit the criteria. And then it went to 300. And now, you know, it has sunk to, I think it was, the low was around $20 or so. So sector's really beaten down. Legalization of marijuana has certainly got the attention of, I guess, everybody. And so I guess the future could be high. As these things bottom out, they got overdone. And so, you know, we'll see where this all goes in the future as it unfolds legally. But for now, technical, you know, that we apply to our method, let's see what might be of interest here. So no further ado, Dan, let's get moving here.
All right. Yeah. Good morning, everyone. Yeah. And I can tell you're in a happy mood. You're talking about being high, and Pat is saying the sector went to pot. So there's two good intros. Yeah. Just a couple slides and then we'll go right into our big list. And this picture is a couple months old, but the trend in the United States is to allow it. And this is a new industry, the tradable. It started in Canada with most of the public companies, and you know, there's more public companies around. So I think it's going to be a good trading sector for many years to come. Just real simply, what's our approach? It's just to look for a high probability setup, and then we enter and manage in between. So we're looking for these pictures on multiple time frames. We're going to do together here to see if it's ready to put our toe back in the water. And then after that, as always, it's just all about the seasoning and trying to get to the unconscious competence level. These are just some of the pictures that we're going to be looking for, as always, and including today, of course. And then we want to make sure that there's a price void and on multiple time frames. And I think everything we're looking, the sector's so beat up, we're only going to be looking at possible longs. So we want multiple time frames in alignment with what we call a price void, meaning look to the left and there's insignificant resistance to the left, giving it room to move higher. If you wanted to take a screenshot of this is our current cannabis list that we look through individually every time we see the market at a possible turn like we did today. We're going to do it together right now. Let me switch to my screen now, and we're going to start with these three ETFs, MJ, IIPR, and YOLO. And then we'll go through the entire list.
Cool.
Here we go. So I have a big daily chart on the left, and then I have the weekly on the bottom right and my monthly on the upper right.
Dan, can you spread out the daily maybe a little bit, the bars?
Sure.
We've got all the data from the higher. Yeah, so we could, beautiful.
Yeah, I can do the same thing here even too. Greg, so why don't you take the first one here? Tell us about MJ, because that's the liquid ETF that's been around for a while. And through its time, we've traded it a long and a short, but we'll focus on now.
Yeah, so obviously it's been in a downtrend for a really long time. And, just every time it tried to bounce up and hit some resistance, back down it went. Our technicals, red bars, big gap up, reversal. And, it's kind of amazing, when you see something that's in a bear market, what you think, is oversold can get more oversold and more oversold. And that is certainly a trap for those that use oscillators and think, oh, this is supposed to be a turning point. But one of the tells here is what we look for in bottoming is, so this was a big, momentum kind of a move. And so the bottoming tail failed. And then what we do to look at how we look at slowing momentum, where those that would look at indicators would say, oh, here is a bullish divergence. Well, what is a bullish divergence? It's something that shows that there's slowing momentum, in this case to the downside, even though the price has made a new low. And the easy way to do that without any indicators is to say, hey, here's a new low and a reversal. What was the distance from the last move and then this move? And you can see how much shorter it is. So, you can put an oscillator on there and you're going to see that there's a divergence. Now, that doesn't mean it can't go lower. So it tried to go up, and where did it stop? Right at resistance. And so now, you look for a retest, and notice the little bottoming tail there is a breakdown failure. So we're always looking at little tells. And so now Friday, it had a good day. I mean, it was
wait, Craig, why are you calling that bottoming tail a breakdown failure? It's a bottoming tail after 7 red bars.
Because these 2 bars, which of course you recognize as a 1, 2, 3 continuation, not a textbook one because it's down multiple bars in a row. But when I see something like this, right, it could be 2 bars or 3 bars, and I see it break down and it springs back up again, that means that there is demand lurking below. And it can only be institutional demand. And notice the volume that occurred on the wide range bar. And so then it begins to retrace, still in a downtrend. But if we were to look at this, not that we have to go there now, but if we were to look at this on an hourly time frame, you'd see a breakdown and a shakeout. It'd be a failure.
Correct.
And so now it comes back up. And so, of course, you think, well, it's going down to make new lows again. And look at the volume here. So the volume for us is a secondary piece of information, but it is useful. We don't need it, but, it kind of adds to the analysis. And then we got this big green bar.
No, and the reason we like volume on these turns is just think about what volume is, folks. It's a lot of selling coming to the market. But guess what? There's a lot of buying also. So there's so that's it. A lot of selling, but the bars are telling us that it's being absorbed, which is bullish.
And so Pat asked me, why can it only be institutional demand? I don't understand how you know that. In reality, Pat, I don't know, like as a fact, but day traders cannot reverse anything to this degree with that kind of volume. So we have to make the assumption, not the fact, that institutions are accumulating down there. So that's why I say it. It's not like I know that there's some indicator or some piece of information that points me to the absolutely fact that it's institutions. But Pat, us. A lot of what we do is just based on common sense, and common sense says that volume isn't created by day traders.
Right. All right. So yeah, let's continue on the weekly, the monthly, and then we can continue. So the weekly still in a nasty downtrend, but it's getting far from the 20. So this bounce is showing on just a little bottoming tail retest. The monthly is what we call a climactic buy setup. 5 or more red bars far from the declining moving average and a reversal bar. So we just have this on our sites that if this low on the daily holds, then we're getting into this sector at what we call the basement floor, at the intelligent bottom fishing location. So we actually have a trade in that in our ETF trader coming out.
You know, Dan, I'm just, when you're saying that, you know, intelligent bottoming fishing reminded me of something we did around this time a year ago.
End of the year bottom fishing, correct? Of the dogs.
Remember how you wrote it up as dumpster diving?
Right.
And
Right, exactly.
Garbage.
Right, and it's what we're doing today because most of these are so oversold. It's intelligently using multiple time frames with a price void to get in, or the reward to risk is fantastic.
Right.
This IIPR it's a REIT that holds and leases properties to these marijuana companies. So it's not like they're doing the growing of it, but it's in the same industry. They're going to be affected by the business of the pot companies. So this one on the daily, that would have been a great little swing trade on Thursday. We call that a bullish gap over this red bar ignored. You look to the left, and as a swing trade, our target would be this 200 moving average corresponds with the breakdown area. So I wouldn't call this one a core trade, and we missed the entry on the swing trade, in my opinion. But the monthly's in an uptrend, so it's much stronger than MJ.
For sure. I would love it on a retest on that daily.
Yeah, yep. If we can get you up, perfect. YOLO here is another recent IPO. I mean, folks, look at this. That's a retest. It's still in a downtrend. But the volume broke down. Greg talks about not needing oscillators for the new low divergences, and the weekly is a retest. The monthly climactic buy setup. So Greg, what are your thoughts on getting on this one? The only I would like it personally just to hold here for another day or so and see what happens, because over to the left here is kind of a wall of resistance, but I love Friday's turn on volume.
Yeah, I mean, when these things turn like that, you have to make some assumptions as to the support and resistance. And so being down so much, a climactic, I would expect it to stall there, but it should get through it. So look, money management is the key to so many. I was going to use the word dilemma, but the dilemma is really between our ears, right? I don't want to lose money. No, none of us do. So with a bottoming stock, what do? We say it's down so much. I like the multiple time frames, so on and so forth. The thing is to put on a smaller position with at least twice the stop that you would consider. So you're still saying, look, let's say I'm willing to risk $100 here on this thing. And if the stop below those lows there, whatever that might be, equates to that number of shares to lose $100. Well, let's just say it's 100 shares. Well, I'm going to buy 50 shares and I'm going to make it twice the stop. That's just an arbitrary thing, right? There's no support under here, but it's just say, well, if there's a wiggle below the low, it's not going to stop me out.
And I'm just adding another concept here. But let's say this bobbles around for the next 5 trading days and then does make a new low and then snaps right back with a bottoming tail, a downside shakeout, then I would be all in. I would say that additional piece of information is giving me the full comfort that it's, not 100%, but.
Imagine if it gapped below that green bar and reversed back up to close positive near the high.
We're all in.
Event
would
really be something.
Okay. All right. Let's look at our list now. And just for the fun of it, when I started my cannabis list, there was a Barron's article where they were bullish on pot stocks, and they listed 8 of them here in the article. Let's look at what Barron's bullish list did. CURLF. It's the monthly's at a prior low, but it's in a downtrend daily, weekly, and that one doesn't interest me at all. And Greg and I are just going to tag team this.
It's got more work to do, but it's got like a measured move to the downside. But Barron's doesn't look at charts.
Look at this. I don't know the date of the article when this came out, but look at that. I have zero interest in this pattern, daily, weekly, monthly. GTB. And if our list doesn't have a new one, folks, feel free when we're done, give it to us. We'll add it to our list and analyze it. Now, this one doesn't have a great price void, but one thing interesting I do like, Greg, is it made a new low, snapped back, weekly made a new low, and monthly it's on major support. So if we could give a retest pattern on this one, then you would have my attention.
Yeah, and I mean, 3 times in the same area and the volume popping like that. So there's definitely interest there. But we're looking at the junk, so to speak, bottoming stuff where, don't expect it to move, in a big way initially. I mean, some of these, that's a pretty giant move right there, percentage wise. But then you see bottoming patterns do exactly what this does is, you either have to be more active or say, you know what, this is a sector, whatever it's wiggled, so I'm going to sit through the ups and downs rather than to trade in and out of it and maybe not get another opportunity to get back in. And, 3 times in the same area, this is one that looks pretty good.
And folks, who know us, we do directional trades when multiple time frames are in alignment, like we're talking about now. And that could be stocks or options. And we also love selling put spreads, provided it's liquid. So to me, this would be a good put spread candidate, even though it's harder to get premium on the cheaper stocks.
I've never find that there's premium, Dan. I mean, that's been my experience. I'm not saying it's not possible, but
look at this.
Maybe, but Dan, and I'm surprised you didn't mention this. I don't know, even if it has options, why not just sell naked puts since we're interested in buying them?
On this sector, MJ?
Well, or one of these stocks?
Well, sure. If we find one and then we go through our checklist, see if it's optionable, number 1, number 2, if it's, liquid, but absolutely. And we have traded bear and bull put credit spreads on MJ all the time. So in fact, I put that in the weekly options trader, that MJ is on my put spread list. This one, again, it's finding buyers at $1, but it had a deeper tracement. It's a bear 1, 2, 3 on the weekly. The monthly still looks horrible. We don't want to be looking at too many things, only the good ones, and that's what we're doing here together. So personally, I wouldn't mess with this one. And again, these are still the Barron's favorite stock from that article. ITHUF.
I think Dan, just as a thought as you're speaking, the choices of looking at one and deciding no against another is to just set alerts on, I guess the select ones, but they probably start clicking at the same time.
Right.
And then
I'm going to make my own list here. So I like MJ, I like YOLO. I'll go back and whichever ones I said I liked before. Let's move on then.
MJ and YOLO look pretty much the same.
Yeah. So this one had a nice deep retracement, making a higher low, major support on the monthly. It's needs for help, but it's worth watching.
They all seem to be doing similar things.
Look at this piece though.
The way they're going down and turning together.
Okay, well, don't put your foot in your mouth. Now explain the behavior on this bullish pattern.
Obviously, relative strength.
Right.
Who knows why, but technically, if we were looking at this, this is more of a pattern that we look at to consider as a long because of the retest and that wide range bar right there. And it does have, some volume spikes and so on. Notice the little breakdown right here where it picked up. So that was more of a swing type of play than some of these others.
Absolutely.
I mean, 2020 hindsight, of course, but just looking at that bottoming pattern, that is the best looking one. And obviously it made much
But
bigger.
also last Thursday, I think, was a viable event. Daily, weekly, monthly were in alignment.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, just, just aside, off topic, so to speak. It's not something I would do. The resistance there, the 200 and all those things kind of influence us that we could struggle with and say, oh, look what it did anyway. Well, so be it. It's something that I would have accepted, that it's not something I would have done and would have missed it.
All right, this one, this is worth watching.
Absolutely.
Go ahead.
What I was going to say, which is similar, is that they all made this kind of a climactic run and then made the new low on slowing momentum. And, there's some type of retest that's going on, but it looks good.
Yeah, I mean, and I mean, look at the month, well, the daily and the weekly and the monthly. This is a beautiful example of what we're saying, the price void. When things fall in just a steady red bar manner like that and doesn't go sideways to pivot or consolidate, that's what leaves the price void to the left. So percentage wise, we just look at pictures. I don't care that this stock is $2.82. Because I think that the target on this thing could be 4 to 4.25. Who knows? Who knows? 450. It has the price void.
Maybe more if it really, the sector gets moving.
Yep, on the monthly, sure. The monthly, you eyeball this, 30-40% retracement at $6. Sure.
Yeah, I mean, well, this is the concept, right? Here's the void. Momentum move, correction through time. And if it goes sideways a little more, it gets even better, but that's a good pattern. And
Yep, I like it.
Monthly, look at the bottoming tail over here. That volume looks kind of weird.
And obviously our subscribers to our advisory letters, all three of them will get these type of trades. We'll be monitoring these and obviously send out alerts when we recommend to enter them. But if you're not a subscriber, then take a 30-day trial and you'll get the alerts as they come out. All right, let's continue. Cron used to be a big favorite. And I remember Greg talking about this in one of our trend MT lives or something, and bottom fishing. That's a powerful downtrend. But on Friday's action, we know what you and I both love. No follow through to this red bar, which closed under consolidation.
Right.
Sloppier. Go ahead.
I'm just looking at that huge gap up, wondering if there was some news, just out of curiosity. I mean, the technicals is another bottoming pattern, but I mean, that gap up was huge. And this is what stocks do. The percentage move is huge, and there's a tremendous amount of losers in this thing. And they say, oh my God, I could just cut my loss by 50%, from what it was yesterday. They sell it, and this is what creates a bottoming pattern.
CGC.
That's a clean one.
It looks fantastic. Look at the volume. This is the biggest green bar in a really long time. It's on support, closed above the 20, retest on the weekly. Target, 25 area or so. That looks good.
And one of the, I'm just noticing on your monthly chart, this one has been around a long time compared to some of the others that are relatively new. This has been around for years. So it's a survivor.
Yep, good point.
That's a good one.
Yeah, let's look at old Tilray dog. That's the one that went. Remember, it went from 150 to 200 in one day.
Yeah.
Look at that. Look at that climactic run. That tail is real. It went to $300 that day.
I wish we could find somebody that bought it on that run and see if they sold it last month.
So this one, another retest here with a price void, and there's a couple of these that I was going to put in our weekly options trader for selling put spreads for next week. CGC was one of them. This was one of them, but they have earnings this week is the problem. But if this can get through earnings, who knows? This could be the long-term bottom. $300 down to 23. CB.
You know, I think of something like that, and while I say it with some hesitation, I don't know, we'll see $300 in our lifetime again.
I agree with you. I think that was like, it was, I don't know, well, I won't use Bitcoin as an example other than it being climactic at 20,000, but it's yeah, like the .com. It's just the frenzy, the greed. CVE, I like this one for a couple reasons. Major support on the weekly. It had a higher low here, broke through, broke out, red bar ignored, price void, you know, trading range on the monthly. But if this gets going, it could go to 15 bucks. So that's on my long watch list.
Yeah, another big gap and dive back down again.
Yeah. This one's been around also. This actually is a U.S. company that it's not fully marijuana, but a part of their business is, which is why we watched this one. That I have no interest in. Bearish gap, weekly, monthly. I just have no interest in that.
Wow, $100 stock. That's something that you found something that, well, it's a pharmaceutical company. So
right, because they do many more things. That's why, right?
Yeah.
CRBP, no interest. You know, these that I have no interest. I don't want to spend a lot of time on, but
too volatile. It hasn't calmed down or contracted the ranges like the others have. Still wide. What about ACB, Dan? You have that one on the list?
Yeah, I'll do that next. This one, you know, and that's what we train you. Greg's amazing swing trading course teaches, you know, all the thought building modules. Once you get seasoning, you know, Greg and I in 1/8 of a second, just as we go through these charts, we can tell if there's any picture that interests us. And this one, there's not. It's a big mess.
All right. So, you know, Dan and I always we educating. So the takeaway, we can look at these stocks and find opportunities, but how do you take away the knowledge of what to look for the rest of your life that applies to everything? And one of the things that we're seeing is something like this. It's still wide and whippy. The bars are overlapping each other and the ranges are big, as opposed to some where the ranges begin to contract. So that wild whippy price action, as it evolves into, you know, lower volatility and contracting ranges, tell you that the next move is getting closer. And those that use technicals like Bollinger Bands that are saying, oh, the bands are tightening up and, you know, tightening the spring, so on and so forth. When you learn to look at the price action, you don't need those lines that can confuse you because it creates so many more thoughts. If I see the ranges are huge like this and wild, crazy moves, and then all of a sudden, you know, it starts tightening like that, like we've seen some of these basing patterns, the basing patterns that are tighter are much more attractive because they're likely to have a sustained move, because the disagreement of sell, 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 as opposed to buy, sell, whatever, is gotten to the point where everything's beginning to equalize.
All right, excellent point. All right, here's ACB. Go for it.
Yeah, I mean, look at this one. That's exactly what I'm talking about. Is that, look, it drops like a rock, and look at this move, down, up, down, and now it's going sideways for a month and a half. It's tightening up.
All right, so Greg, let me ask. Go ahead.
I mean, it could drop, could be a base and a drop, but you know, look at this month. What is it? The weekly chart. You know, in the wide range bar, which suggests the end of a move. Now, ideally, it would be on support, but if it takes out this high, then we know it has created support. So we have different concepts that show us how to change as the information changes.
And Greg calls it an event. I call it, you know, give me a something. Tell me that this is ready to buy on the long side, because as Greg said, it could be a consolidation and a downtrend. So we teach different flavors of events. So one could be a big gap down reversal. It could be a bottoming tail. It could be more consolidation and then a wide range igniting. It could be a gap. If this thing tomorrow gaps over $4 and takes out a 10, 15-minute high, then I will give it to our subscribers. That's the event, the gap breakout from consolidation. It could be a new low divergence, so it's also trying, so it's worth watching. But it came in multiple gaps. I think we're just better off with these other ones so far.
Lower volume. So set an alert. What about labs, Dan? Someone typed in labs. And
I don't remember labs.
LABS.
Yeah, it is. I didn't. That's not on my list, but I'll add it if it's a pot stock.
I don't know.
All right, so this one got above its 20. It's going sideways. Red bar ignored.
That one looks pretty good.
You got some overlapping bars here, which are going to be resistance on an hourly chart. But risk to reward. If you got up to 240, 250 with a stop under this red bar, that could work. Labs. I don't have a symbol. LABS.
Yeah. TC brought it up. Looks like LABS I guess it's a Canadian stock. A lot of this stuff happens in Canada.
NBEB. Do you remember this?
.to.
This is, I don't get Toronto data on this. This, remember, is one where they were putting the cannabis infused into drinks. And look at this. Look at the monthly chart. Just eyeball it. It was at $10. Now it's $2.62. And it looks horrible. I wouldn't touch that. That's a nasty downtrend. This is what we call a nasty upside shakeout. So when 99% certainty, that was news, and then it failed. And it's relative weakness to all these other bullish ones who acted bullish on Friday. Wouldn't touch that thing.
They're putting marijuana in the drink. The alcohol wasn't enough.
Right. Right. Well, no, but they might put it in iced tea or something, not in a liquor per se. Do you remember even Coca-Cola is talking about doing that?
Yeah, well, everybody wants to jump on the train to profit from it, and that's what drove it up to the stratosphere earlier in the year, and it collapsed.
This actually would have been a beautiful swing short here. You had this bearish gap here. You had a topping tail, false breakout, price void. That's would have been my target. Got a beautiful. This is what we call a textbook W pattern. Just go to your alphabets, and that's a W with time symmetry in the two lows. It's gotten sloppy here over the last week. I don't have any interest in that.
That's a weird kind of a pattern, meaning it bottoms and then the volatility picks up again, that wild whippy price action.
This one, relative strength award. Wow. At least over the last couple of weeks. Look at those moving averages, 20 above 50, above 200. It's a monthly resistance, and you missed your ideal entries, but beautiful, beautiful gap. You know what, Greg? This would have been a beautiful in our pre-market prep, as folks know, in the green trading room, which we also put on YouTube at 9 Eastern. I would have been talking about this as a beautiful gap candidate. Gapped over consolidation and an uptrend. There's no tail here, so whether it's 5, 10, 15-minute high, we would have to look at the intraday charts. But for now, we've missed the boat.
That's so different from all the others, which makes me think, go check what's the difference here in the news. Maybe it's not, total cannabis.
I totally agree. Yep. APHA, it's a mess. CRBP. STZ is another company. Not that Constellation Brands, not that STZ, to my knowledge, is involved in the cannabis infusion stuff, whatever. But I forget what company. It's either Cron or ACB or one of them, it owns about 40% of it. And that's why we have this one in the sector. This could be, you know, big head and shoulders type of thing, weekly, monthly. Yeah, it's a mess.
So that Dan, you know what? I can remember, like we remember our experiences, and one of the things that stuck in my mind, I think it was 1993. Dell Computer was having a lot of problems at the time, and there was a lot of speculation they were going to go out of business. And there was this big weekly head and shoulders pattern. So the speculation was when it was going to go down. And, you know, so at the time, you know, I was like, oh, maybe, but it failed. And ever since then, I've always set alerts at the right side shoulder, because when they fail, the move is big to the upside. So even though this looks like it could dive, I would set an alert on that right shoulder.
Yep, 195. Yep.
Yep.
So
And just see if it gets through that, because if it does, it's going to go back up to 210.
Well, or 205, whatever. You got an ugly gap there, but yep, I follow. PYX, no interest. HRVSF, I like that. Oh, I already reviewed that one. That looks great. KSHB. Oh, we already looked at that too. CWBHF. No. CBSI. Nope. Has that gap to deal with. ELXF. Nope. And a downtrend. That's an example of I need a something something. Otherwise,
that's what we call a death trend, Dan.
Right.
Down here, this prior low. So maybe it turns, but we define a death trend as something where the bars, the ranges are almost the same and they're tiny. It doesn't even have the volatility anymore, and it doesn't go sideways. Where I said, okay, the ranges contract. It's gone sideways. This is a range contracting and it's still going down.
Yeah.
It doesn't bounce anymore.
All right. Yeah, Pat, I'll check that later for my list on SWN. Hexo, I don't have any interest. Do you?
You know, not really. No, I mean, it's making new lows again, but you know, to making choices as to which one of these things are really going to move, which is what we're talking about. So yeah, if this is less desirable. So my inclination, obviously, is the ones that we thought were the best to start with that, set alerts on some of these. But I think the best bet is MJ. It kind of takes away too much thinking. They may not move as much, the MJ and the YOLO.
Yep.
And starting with that and setting alerts on some of these others that maybe they start to fly.
Well, and another obvious benefit, let me just state the obvious, is these two are ETFs. So, you know, and they're good patterns on ETFs, so we don't have as much gap risk.
Absolutely.
Or the earnings problems. All right. Kern, death trend. Wow, look at that.
$4 still. Spread that out there. And maybe we got a little.
Yeah.
The other way. Yeah, nah.
That's another death trend. Wow.
Yeah.
OGI. Maybe.
Yeah. We both said the same thing. Maybe, you know, maybe, you know, this is a little shakeout and, you know, it's going to make a higher low and base out here. You know, so patterns, we always look for what we consider to be the best, and that's a retest pattern, but it doesn't mean we're going to get it. So maybe this begins to make a higher low base going sideways here, and we need more information, but it's the beginnings of what could be a shakeout. So look at it. It popped to the top and it broke down. And this is why you don't buy breakouts in patterns that are in downtrends like this. It's not developed enough. And so it popped up, it went down, now it's back up again. So it's kind of a crazy pattern, but that's how bottoms start.
Yep. And the weekly, could go to 450, which would be a good return. So yeah, let that one go sideways for a couple more days.
Look at your monthly.
Yeah. Target $5. ACRGF. Nope, still in the downtrend, no interest, although big volume, but it's in a nasty downtrend. CTST. Nope. It could develop, but I don't like to be bothered. I already have 7 of them here. I like better.
Mm-hmm. I would setting alerts. Maybe they never hit, but let the computer watch it.
All right. So Greg, tell the viewers exactly where you would love to set an alarm on this one.
The high of the red bar.
Exactly. You see that, folks?
I mean, it gapped down and it was bought. And sometimes these gap downs are just bought because shorts covering. We have to have a belief or bias that there's still a lot of shorts in this, even though it's single digits. Sometimes people just short a bunch and think, well, some will go to zero. So it could have been bought just by short covering. We don't know. But if it can get back up here, that's something to take note of.
Right. And then our target would be, I'm just eyeballing it here, 6.5. It would be this breakdown area. Unless you were trading a bigger time frame, in which case, you're going to have to sit through them and trade the bigger time frames. But as a swing trade, that would be my target. As a core trade, I don't know. It has a huge price void, $30 down to 380. Yeah, Pat XXII. No, I did not look at it. Is that a pot stock? It says 22nd Century Group. Yeah, I got no interest in that. I got 5 more here on my list. SNDL. I don't know why this isn't showing volume here. Now this would be, it's a 2-bar reversal on the weekly, still in a downtrend. This would be a great one if we got a big W pattern. Then it has room to $7. That could double.
A lot of volume. I mean, there was hardly any volume. It looks like, unless that's bad data. But I think the volume here, there had to be some news event if this is all real. And I would check the news on this to see somehow this got a lot of attention. How can you scroll this back down to
No, Greg, I don't think it's a new extra volume. I think for some reason this trade station on new stocks, because you can see it's a fairly new IPO. For some reason it doesn't give volume earlier on, so nothing to compare it to. TOR-C.
I don't like that one.
Nope.
Well, I don't like it where it is now because I'm thinking entries, but it had a nice move. The rounding bottom was nice.
David's T. So this sounds like a similar to the NBEV infusion.
I don't know what to do with that.
If you were trading the weekly, it would have to be over, 2 weeks ago's high. But yeah, you notice the overlapping bars and tails on the weekly, folks. That's what Greg teaches you is going to be a big old congestion mess on the daily. And look on the daily. It's exactly what you got. So no interest there. TCNNF. We looked at that one already, I think. Yeah, Thursday was the breakout day. And finally, THCH. I got that off your list, Greg, that you gave me before this, and it says it's the wrong symbol.
Let me see. What was it? TCNNF.
No, that was the one I just looked at.
Oh. What is this? What do you THC? I don't see that in my list. Hey, whatever. Type your own.
Yeah, no problem.
Look at ITHUF.
ITUF.
I think you did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that one. All right, well, that's my entire list. So I have like 8 of them here written down.
We looked at so many, I'm losing track, Dan, but did we look at HRVSF? This looks good.
It's in the weekend letter.
Here you go. Yeah, that's a nice looking one.
Yep.
So, I mean, we look at these patterns. And so, again, we're looking at things that jump out at us as to, bottoming tail, volume, a retest close to the same area, the red bar ignored and this bottoming tail bar and the volume and the biggest wide range bar. And while it's at resistance, we always try to look at something like this and say, well, why should it get over some resistance now? Well, when you've got a retest pattern, it's kind of like just saying, hey, I've got, 2 muscles as opposed to one, or, 2 forces against 1 force. And, just based on this pattern, like it should get through that. Doesn't mean it has to go through it right now. Maybe it wiggles around a little bit around here, but it should get through it. And then attack here. We've got the 50 and aligned with that swing high. And then there's this. So, bottoming patterns have lots of wiggles, not so much on the way down, but on the way up where it's got to absorb that supply.
Yeah. And if everybody can put their drop down to all panelists and attendees, please. But Damien's asking me to look at 4 of them. And Damien, I'm assuming these are all pot stocks. So I'll add them to my list. CRLBF. I like it. It's a breakout. It's in a trading range, but the 20 MA curled. I like it. I mean, right.
A lot of times, and why Dan has got this up here in multiple time frames is that when something is bottoming or whippy, by condensing the information, it can make things a lot clearer. And that's what we see on a lot of these things. By condensing the information, the message becomes a lot clearer.
All right, next. So yeah, Damien, I like it. CWBHF. Why don't you take it, Greg?
Yeah, I'm looking at the daily and it's like, oh, that doesn't look very good. But I see the weeklies in the area of the prior low. So it's not going sideways yet. So doesn't really interest me. But because of the location, the support, I would set an alert maybe at the 20 and, you could put it on a watch list. It's not ready yet.
PLPRF. And I knew you guys were going to help me add to our list. In my opinion, it's not ready yet, but if you can get the W bottom, then it might be interesting, but I still like our big list better.
Yeah, I mean, so something to just take away as kind of your learning is that these bars here obviously suggest bottoming price action. But it's not the same in a downtrend as it would be in an uptrend in an area of support. So it's definitely bottoming here, but do we want to trade this stock? It's not even to say, let's buy it here because it's new all-time lows. There's nothing to the left. There's no support. So,
and I don't like the weekly monthly.
This price action has to be put in the context of its location and trend.
SLGWF. I like Friday's action, but there's not a great price void really on the weekly or the daily. And it looks like I personally don't like trading stocks under $1. I like all the other ones better, but it might be bottoming.
Yeah. So Guy was asking, would they broke the lows, would you short them? Well, I wouldn't be shorting single digit stocks. I don't even know if it would be borrowable, but I'd rather short something that's $100, tell you the truth,
right,
than a $1 stock or $4 stock.
This one, the weekly, has a much better price void. see how the bars are coming down more fluid and not overlapping. I like this 180 reversal far from the 20, but now the daily is up 4 bars in a row. This would be a good one if you get a retest pattern or higher low. Then that one's not bad.
Yeah. Why is that? Oh, you have more data here. 19. Okay. That one's kind of wild.
Yeah, too wild for me.
Yeah. So that's, what we were talking about earlier about, it calming down and beginning to, come together where the ranges contract and it gets tighter. This is still wild and whippy.
Mark has one here for us. Nasty downtrend. This is a wide range, nasty engulfing bar with a failed gap in a downtrend. Count all these bars. What, 10 of them here?
I think that's going to zero.
In the lower 90% of this bar in a bear downtrend. Yeah, that looks, oh yeah, 15-cent stock. Yeah, it looks like it's going to zero. Yeah. All right, that's all I have. If you all don't have anything else, I think we accomplished our mission.
Yeah, we went through a nice list of, from the sector, ETFs to individuals, and some that look great and some that look like, junk. So, one last one, Dan?
Yeah, right here, Damien asked, yeah, this,
Pat, not too much Dunkin', not the sugar, get the plain.
it needs more work. And I like the other ones better. That's just in a power trend. Look at the moving averages, railroad track 2050.
Yeah.
No interest.
We can do more on Sundays, Joe, but some Sundays, we like to go out and relax and just hang out, at the end of the week. And so, but no, this was great, Dan. You suggested doing it, and I didn't have plans. So it was like, sure, let's do it.
All right, awesome. And we got a good list. Some of these are already in the letters, so I'll just have to finish them now.
Yeah, awesome. All right, everybody, have a great Sunday, and we'll be back next week. What's next week's title, Dan, on Wednesday? I forget. MT Live.
I think it's the multiple time frames for core trading.
Okay, cool.
And then the week after that, buy and sell setups on all time frames. The week after that is tails, bottoming and topping tails.
All right. Have a great Sunday. We'll talk on Wednesday. Those in the green room tomorrow. Bye-bye.
Right, have a great afternoon.
Thank you for listening to Master Trader Live. If you liked the show, we invite you to share this video on your timeline or tag a friend who wants to learn stock market tips. Stay educated with our free chart of the week, a weekly analysis or lesson sent right to your inbox. We're live every week, and you can subscribe to the channel and press the bell to get alerts. If you've enjoyed the event, please give us a thumbs up. Just visit mastertrader.com. That's mastertrader.com.